Hello everybody, it's Damon with True Generations, and today I'm going to talk about the power of psychological input. Now, if you watched the previous video, I talked about how psychological input actually affected me in 2016, 17, 18, and even some of 19. And this is an area in my entire life that I've wrestled with so much, because a lot of parts of me had been reluctant to let things go because I thought they were giving me, or I felt that they were giving me, some kind of immediate gratification. So before I dive into that and talk about how that is the biggest component to actually solving this psychological input and finding good sources of input, I want to share with you what it is. So the brain is like a sponge, right? And if you take a sponge and you put it into a bucket of water, that sponge is going to absorb that water. But you won't see it if you just pick the sponge up. You'll just see a sponge. But you squeeze it and all of a sudden the water comes out. It's the same thing with psychological input. When you are taking in information of any type, whether it's some type of bad situation, your environment, books you're reading, music you're listening to, movies you're watching, or anything in that caliber, your brain is going to absorb it, but you're not going to see it until you're squeezed. Now, what the squeeze is whatever actions you decide to take, given a circumstance, given a situation, given a response, right? Or anything else along those lines. So the thing is that you won't actually see that output until you're pressed for it. So you're beginning to program your mind to absorb and contain these materials. Now, unlike a sponge, over the course of time, what happens is that your life is like contracting and building off of everything that's actually within you. So here comes the challenge, right? Is because you've got all these things within you, you're actually making decisions every day based on that content that's inside the sponge. So that's where the problem is. That's where it's going to create a problem for you, because you're thinking, hey, look, I'm making good decisions for myself, but you think they're good decisions because that's the input you've taken in. So what we have to do is start thinking about our input. What are our beliefs what are we doing to nourish particular beliefs that we have? Are those beliefs actually good beliefs? Because some beliefs that we have are not actually good beliefs. Now, the first step is to really question those beliefs, right? We've got to question them. Are they good beliefs to have? Are they serving me in some way? And in the way that they're serving me, is it contrary to what it is that I actually want? A lot of people have psychological input in the form of actions from others, right? For example, when I worked in a medical clinic, a lot of people would come in and say that they wanted to fix their medical problem, which we had a natural solution for, right? It took a little bit of work, but it wasn't impossible. You could do it on a daily basis. But every time these people got close to actually resolving their problem by starting what we were telling them to do, they would sabotage themselves. And then come to find out, when we started probing the environmental situation of these people, by being disabled or in pain, people were providing for them. People were giving them assistance. They didn't have to go to the grocery store because their spouse was doing it for them, because they were worried about the sunlight. They were worried about things that would trigger certain symptoms, right? And as a result of that, they were getting input and validation from the external environment, which had a stronger motive. Sure, this person didn't want to be in pain, but they did actually subconsciously decide to be in pain because they were receiving benefits. So the idea is that you've got to evaluate what it is that's serving you in the present moment, which is more of an instant gratification mindset, or what it is that the life that you want to live, right? What life do you want to live in the next 10, 20 years? Do you see yourself as a person who has a different life than where you're headed today, or wants to have a different life? Or are you dissatisfied with your circumstance today? Well, if you are, that's where you got to go, what is it that I need to take in from my environment, from people around me, from the books that I read, from the music that I listen to, from other sources, of information that's affecting my output? So this is the challenge that I'm faced with too, because I'll tell you, there's movies that I like, there's music that I like, that I know is not beneficial for me. I know it's not helping me in the way that I want it to help me. I know it's actually being detrimental. I have a lot of anger issues, right? More lately than ever. I've dealt with frustration and anger in vast amounts in the last 2 years, and I tend to listen to that music more so now. It cultivates those feelings even more. It's like, I'm not the only one who's seen this, but I know people who are down listen to sad music because they relate to it. Well, if you believe in any type of spirituality like I do, you know that everything has a vibration to it, right? And so if you're even harmonizing or resonating above a certain level, and the music you're listening to is here, it's going to kind of vibrate and pull you back down to this level. Now that's not beneficial for you, because if you're not operating in a peak state, you're not going to be able to contribute to people around you. You're not going to be able to make an impact like you want to make an impact. Maybe that impact you want to have is something as little as making a difference in a stranger's day. But if you're so absorbed in your own bullshit, how are you going to do that? How are you actually going to make a difference? What difference are you going to be able to make if you're absorbed in your own problems? If you're not paying attention to the people around you, the physical environment around you, and how you're affecting those people. I'll tell you, I've been in so many situations where I felt the same way. I've been there. I've been frustrated about particular situations in which I've been dealing with those things. So, a good example of what's going on and being able to make an impact or make an influence is what's going on in the social media world. I had a friend come up to me and tell me that he went to a Gary Vee seminar, and I'm sure some of you may know who he is and may know or may not. But the point is, Gary Vee's been a big, huge social media influencer. He's pretty profoundly attached to the power of social media. But how you're using that social media is where the problem begins, right? So I think 15, 20 years ago, a lot of people were just posting things about their life, and it became like, hey, look at me, right? Hey, look at me, hey, look at me. And now this has cultivated into a generation of selfies, right? And granted, when I was 16, 15, 14, and 17 and 18, maybe early 18, I was really attached to taking pictures of myself, right? I had this vanity complex, right? I was very full of myself, and still am in a lot of ways, but not in the same way, of look at me, right? Look at me. I've worked out, I'm fit, I can do whatever I want, I'm cool, whatever, right? And I thought I ruled the block. Well, the reality is that I was pretty immature, and I was full of myself. But aside from me, there was a lot of other people doing the same thing, right? And they were taking pictures of themselves, and that's how people are influencing people today, is through vanity, which a lot of us now have this attachment to how we're appearing to others, and that is how we're influencing people. Hey, look, if you look enough at my pictures and my lifestyle, you're going to want to live it too. And I think that's where the problem is, because it's deceitful, right? It's deceitful because a lot of people aren't even actually living the life they're posting, right? They're obviously doing those things, but they're doing it with the intent of producing an image, right? It's like, if we start questioning this, we question things like, why do you have to fake smile before you post a selfie? Why can't you just display whatever the hell it is you're feeling? Instead of, hey, let's fake smile and create some type of fabricated impression, right? And I think that's where a lot of the problems arise, is because we want to have some sort of influence on the people around us. And I think everybody really wants to have some type of influence, whether it's in some type of personal situation, right? Which is, I want to influence my family, or I want to influence my friends, or it's like a wide scale influence, which I call a syndrome for me, right? I'm less about the personal and more about the wide scale. But regardless, I don't use social media in the same way. Used to, but I kind of deleted all those photos, deleted all those stories, deleted all those elements, and instead I try to drip something that makes a difference, right? Something that actually can influence, something can make and somebody actually question, stop in their tracks and go, whoa, what's going on here, right? Whoa, I've seen all this stuff, all this vanity. Does this make me think? Or are we so bombarded with information today that we just scroll right past it? And it's not that my content is powerful. It's not that my content is different. It's not that I'm a great motivational speaker or I create powerful quotes. It's just different, right? It's putting things in perspective for a world bombarded with vanity. When we look at these social media, it's now just, let's surround ourselves with specifics of, hey, look at me. And that's how we're choosing to influence people. And when we particularly are attracted to this, and we're inputting this in our minds, right? So psychological input, the effect of that social media, day after day of vanity, how can it not begin to transform the way you're thinking? So there was a study done, I don't remember how long ago, but it said that the more time, there's a correlation between time spent on social media and the amount of depression one faces in the period of time span, right? Now, the validity of this, I don't know. But what I can tell you is it's interesting because it raises two questions. Was it that depressed people were more attracted to looking at other people's lives? Or was it that other people's lives made people more depressed? Because we live now in an era where we have to make a choice every day because there's so much information. We can't just stop loading me with this crap, right? We have to make a choice. Am I going to log on to social media today and take in this bunch of information that I don't really want to take in today? Or am I going to say no? Am I going to say no today? Because you know what? The one thing that I have is my mind. And it's the choice that I make to protect it. I will not sell myself to whatever environmental circumstance is influencing me. And you have to make that choice every single day because you know what? We can't control the abundance of information. We're moving in an age now where augmented reality and virtual reality are becoming real things. And we're not going to stop this. It's not going to be like, let's stop the production of technology. Because let's face it, technology is enhancing our ability to get more done, to make bigger influence and bigger impact. But how we actually choose to manage that technology and perceive that technology and use that technology to make a difference is where it all really begins. But it begins with here. It begins in the soul, right? It begins with what choice do I make today to protect my mental boundaries from the information that I'm being bombarded with? Do I just want to be another vanity producer or do I want to make a difference? We've got kids today that are lonelier than ever. We've got adults that are lonelier than ever. They can't even find people to talk to online anymore. You got a bunch of desperate people online seeking validation from other people just to realize, or just for them to accept that they're normal human beings, not anything special, but I'm human. And this is where my problem begins. This is where psychological input has such a profound effect on us. Because if we're not changing our soul and how we're treating other people, then we're allowing that to take control of us too. And that to mold and change the path of the course of our future, the direction that we're deciding to go. So my passion comes from this because when I start talking about these things, this is where I start raising questions and going, what the fuck am I doing every day? Why am I sitting here and just taking in this information? I'm getting raped by society. I'm getting raped by, my mind is getting completely obliterated by the content that's being produced by other people, and it's affecting the courses and the decisions that I make every day. I don't need to keep up with the Joneses. I need to be able to protect what is mine, right? And I need to be able to protect it so that way I can influence other people to protect theirs. I can make a difference. You can make a difference. All of us can make a difference, but it starts with changing who we are, right? Be, do, have. You have to be first. And our influences are making that big of a difference on us. You surround yourself with a bunch of people that are not influencing you in a positive direction. How are you going to make the step? How are you going to make the step to get out of that? You've got to be able to dump your friends. The ones that you think are your friends that are there for you, bro. They're kicking it with you, right? You've got to be able to get rid of the people that aren't having that kind of effect on you. And it sucks sometimes because, you know what? You have this fear of being alone maybe, of being all by yourself. Maybe you feel that it would be wrong. But does the lives of the many outweigh the lives of the few or the one? It's a choice you have to make. You probably wouldn't even be watching this video if you didn't think that there was something to this. You certainly wouldn't be this far into the video, right? You probably wouldn't be saying, you know what kind of input am I taking in on a daily basis? Start questioning yourself. You pull out your pen and paper and start going, I'm gonna write this shit down. Because you know what, today's the day. This is the difference that I make, the choice that I make. I've got to find something that compels me, because you know what, willpower burns out, it's gone. It's completely obliterated. There's so much powerful pressure out there in the real world, there is, that you can't will yourself to resist it. You can hide, or you can fight, but if you don't have a path, and you don't follow your own code, and you don't know what is impactful to you and what is negative to you or what is consequential to you, then you need to start making boundaries, right? You need to start making differences, making choices. Because if you're, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years old, you can still make a difference. Just don't let the things tempt you. Don't fall to temptation, right? Don't be tempted by the things that are easy, that bring you some sense of gratification. Because there is numerous studies about how people scroll endlessly through Facebook. They don't even know what they're looking for. I found myself doing it. What the hell are you looking for? Inspiration? Validation? Comedy? Entertainment? Stop being a taker, right? Be a producer. There are some people out there, and I think at times it's okay to take. It's a give and take, right? It's okay to take. It's okay to live this life. It doesn't always have to be self-sacrificial and go kill yourself for everyone else. Nobody has to be a hero. But there's potential. In every single individual, there's potential. And when you lose sight of your own potential and you feel like you need to be influenced by someone else, when you lose sight of the ability and impact that you can make on someone else, it could be that kid down the street. When I was younger, there was always people that were struggling, right? And I would take them in, and I'd be betrayed by them down the road, right? Those people I'd take in and try to help bring them up. And they would eventually, they would rob from me, steal from me, take my shit, and I'd go hunt them down and have my vengeance. This was like the standard of my living for a while, is like payback. I did all this for you and you did this to me as a return, whereas that's no longer my philosophy, right? I'd pick these people up, put them and say, look, here, you can stand up, you could be this, right? You could be this person. And because it wasn't that I saw this potential in you, it's that you knew the potential, because they told me this is where they're gonna be. And it's like, what can I do? I only have this small series of skills that I can give you. But was it a sense of duty? No. It's just I feel like there's something more beneath the surface. And I've never been really good at reading it. But I do believe that there's a lot of potential in everybody. Every single person makes a difference. And bad or good, that's up to subjective interpretation, right? Had course A of events had not happened, then B may have not happened. So, does this video really mean that you need to go change? No. But if you feel that fire in you, right? If you feel that desire to that voice that tells you, this is what I need to change, right? Is I need to start changing the little things. What impact? The universal language of music, right? Can make a huge difference. A lot of people are listening to music that validates how they feel, right? Well, I need to find something I can relate to. Well, no, why? You want to be validated that you're not the only one? Let's stop trying to be special snowflakes and let's start trying to make a difference. It's tough to make this type of content because I'm the last person that can tell you that I've done it. I'm the last person that can tell you that I'm any more successful than you in any avenue of my life. but it's just the hope that we can all stand up for each other when times in situations which are bigger than ourselves are impacting us as a generation or a culture or a group of people or a community, right? There's a lot of power out there in collectiveness. In the collective group of people, there's so much power. You can make a change, but there's a lot of communities that I don't feel are very advantageous, or they're hypocritical communities because they're actually making the problem worse. But at least they're giving it an effort. What input are they taking in? What perspective are they taking in, right? So it's a difficult call. But just 10 pages of a book a night, or listening to a different type of music, or watching a different type of movie and saying no, most of the time. You can always make little exceptions here and there. It's like a diet, right? Follow it 90% of the time, 10% make exceptions. Does this mean you need to live a certain regimented life? No. I don't live a regimented life, and I'm okay with that. I don't want a regimented life. I want freedom to explore and to be spontaneous and to pursue the things that I love to pursue. But does that take precedence over being there for the people that I love? Does that take precedence over the future of the generation? Because you know what, if you're watching this video and you have kids, I bet you that those kids are more important than you, right? And if you're not making a difference and you're not choosing to change some of the things that you know is negatively impacting you but impacting them, then maybe it's time, right? Because I'll tell you, although their generation is going to be easier with a lot of technological advantages, these social disadvantages are increasing, in my opinion. And maybe you disagree, right? You've got a lot of people now that can text like pros, but they can't even have a simple conversation with anybody anymore. The millennial generation is no longer about having communication with strangers because strangers are bad. And when they get in a social environment, nobody knows what to say. I can go into a busy restaurant 25 years ago and people were talking with each other, strangers. And now the only people that talk to me as strangers are either the people on the signs on the street that want money, or people of the baby boomer generation or older may start a conversation with me. But I always try to go out of my way, or say always, often try to go out of my way to talk to random people and start a little conversation, and hopefully throw a compliment in there or so to make somebody feel better, which could change their day, right? It's pretty hard sometimes because I'm not really good with compliments, but I try to find something. And if that's the difference you want to make and that's the impact you want to have, then great. But it really starts with having a plan for yourself. Taking the archetype of what you see yourself being and what you are at your core, your essence, and then matching the external to resonate with that. So there's a vibration, right? Let's just hypothesize that our essence has a vibration. Who we are is vibrating, right? And we're picking these things that vibrate at a much lower vibration and we're throwing them in. And it's slowing down the fuel burning vibration that we have, the energy of being alive, right? And being sentient and being aware and conscious. And that vibration, and we're taking these other things that do not have that, and we're slowing that vibrational energy down. We're losing that essence of ourself, right? That shell becomes hardening, and then we're getting firmer. That vibration starts weakening. And this transitions into the power versus force philosophy, right? So the idea is that we're not going to be transformed into these new people, but rather we're going to be restored, right? Restored by taking that environment and finding out what this resonance is, right? What is this resonance that's in my soul? What is this? Where is my soul burning? Where is this fire? I've spent all this time looking for this passion and it's here. I've just masked it from my mind because I couldn't feel it anymore, right? I couldn't feel the passion. I couldn't feel the fire. All that I felt was just, where is it? Let's go find it. Let's go chase it. So let's scroll through the endless social media and see if somebody can inspire me to find what it is. But the reality is that It's about letting go, not bringing in, letting go of the things that are holding us down, the strings that are holding us. The good news is the spirit never dies. It just becomes buried more and more in the shit that we throw in. The spirit never dies though. So we take in this psychological information, all these books, right? We take in all these books, all this information. I was reading Power versus Force the other day, and it was funny because it said the Bible resonated like 600 units, right? 600, which is like 200 is the power level, and below that's force, right? And power is the positive energy, if you will, and force is the negative energy, right? Power is, it's giving. And the Bible resonated at 600, whereas like enlightened beings like Eckhart Tolle and all these people of New Age spirituality who are authentic vibrate at much higher frequencies than the Bible. What's interesting is the United States Constitution vibrates higher than the Bible does. Thought that was an interesting fact. Because, again, it's freedom. I think that there's a lot of interesting theories about stuff like that, but I don't want to dive into those yet. What I do want to talk about is make your choices, right? If you're vibrating at a low frequency right now, it's not because you're dying. It's not because you're done. It's not because you're 50 years old and you're on your 4th bout of trying this again, right? Last thing we want to do is do it again. But you know what? Change is instantaneous. Like that. And we can make a difference instantly in our psychology and the choices we make. So, there's a lot of shit that we need to work out within ourselves. And once we figure out what it is that's manifesting inside of us, right, the fluidity of our soul or our spirit and where it's resonating, we need to match that externally. What is it that I'm allowing in? I'll tell you, I have a particular coworker that a lot of people see as pretty strange, and I even saw him that way as first. Pretty strange guy, but strange in a good way, right? He was very unique, and he'd talk about love and what love was and the spirit of love, and he'd talk about there's only 2 real core emotions in the world, love and fear, and you live in one or the other. That's it. And so love is the answer to all. And he inspired me in a lot of ways. And I didn't seek it, right? But he's a real human being. Like, he is. And it's amazing to see these things unfold right before you because you don't expect them, you don't plan on it, and you start seeing this. And some of the things he said was like, it's all about love, man. It's all about love. That's it. And I'm teaching sales, right? I'm doing all my sales training. And he made references about how money, the exchange of money, which is sales, are just energy. It's energy transferring from one way to another. Money's energy. And at first I just thought it was kind of funny. And then I really started thinking about it, like, where is this guy at? What level is he thinking at? And that dude is resonating way higher than I am. And his sales techniques are not normal, but he's not attached. He just doesn't care about the outcome, and he's performing really well. And I'm just like, wow, this guy's really attracting the things he wants in his life, right? He's really creating that manifestation, but I see what he's doing. He stopped listening to music, right? And he used to tell me the kind of music he liked in his rebellious days, and he would tell me about how he kind of broke the rules and lived a life kind of like I did. And now he just let go of all that. The only thing he listens to now are resonating frequencies, which may seem kind of weird to some people, but you know what? There was a day I was having where I was really stressed out, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna ask him what he's listening to. So I walked up to him and I said, hey, what do you listen to? And he told me, I'm listening to this frequency. And he said, it's supposed to clear negative energy. And I said, okay, I'll try it. Of course, me being skeptical, I'm like, that ain't gonna work, but I'll try it, whatever. Put on the headphones and I sat there for 15 minutes. And it's like it put me into this complete flow state that I haven't experienced in a long time, right? Because usually I get it in crisis. And it was like things finally slowed down again. And I said, maybe it's just a placebo. Maybe this is just bullshit. But then I started saying, you know what, I'll give it more of a chance, and I'll start listening to it pretty consistently for the past few days. And as I've done that, I felt like I was awakening on the inside. So this really boils down, without getting too spiritual or esoteric or whatever you guys may think, this does bring around the idea that we need to think about what we're inputting and how it's transforming our hard shells, or rather breaking them down, right? Creating a little bit of ego dissolution and creating us to be the people we are, not people we want to be, or what our ego wants, right? Because what the ego wants is very limited, and that will break. It doesn't matter if you're Enneagram 8, you're a 3, you're a 5. It doesn't matter if you're image type, core type, head type. Doesn't matter, right? None of that matters, because all of the Enneagram is about ego. And there's more, right? We are all Enneagram 9s. We are all 1s. We are all 8s. We are all 7s, 5s, 6s, 4s, 3s, 2s. We're all of it. And just we tend to slant more in one direction or another. And when we start developing, we start getting less attached to that. But as I've said in my old videos, it's like I've related to all those Enneagrams. At some point, I felt those influences in my life. And there was a period where I was starting to, I would call awaken, right? And see things differently. And then I started becoming less attached to those, and I started being able to narrow it down just to a few numbers. And I was like, wow, I can see how these things have started releasing. And then I went backward. And now I'm in touch with all of them. So welcome, Enneagram, to my life. So choices. No one can take away our power of choice now, because these are the choices we can make every day. And the choices can happen in here. There's a book called I believe it's by Viktor Frankl, and you people should read it. I don't know where it is on this bookshelf, but it's called The Meaning of Man, I believe is the title. I'll add the correct title probably in the description of this video, but it's called The Meaning of Man. And Viktor Frankl is the name of the author. So it's a very powerful book about a particular Holocaust survivor from World War II, and how situation changed as soon as he changed his psychology. And it was less about what was happening in the external world, right? And so those of you on my channel that are attached to type and attached to your type and trying to continually make excuses for presenting a certain aura or presenting a certain demeanor because that is your type and you're justifying it, or you're trying to emulate it, you're probably not being authentic to yourself, right? So I challenge you to try to make some changes, right? What movies are you watching? Don't shelter yourself, because we have a world that's full of challenges and you need to be prepared and you need to know what's out there, but also protect your space, protect your headspace. Because no one or no thing deserves to live rent-free in your mind, right? And it's okay to have a bad 5 minutes, but not okay to have a bad bad day, right? Bad 5 minutes, bad day, you can have bad 5 minutes. But then reprogram yourself, pull yourself into a different direction. And you do that by having a strong vision and writing it down and reinforcing it every day and going, you know what? Some of the most successful people that I followed, as far as not just financially successful, but influential, some of the most influential people review their goals daily, every single morning. And I started doing that habit about a year ago. I started reviewing what it is that I'm trying to attain. And as I looked back and I kind of reviewed what I was writing down, I slowly tweaked them over the course of the year, right? And I started seeing that the materialism was diminishing, where it's more about personal freedom. Not freedom from the system, but freedom from my own ego delusions. And yet I hadn't taken the steps because there were certain things that were satisfying me. Like, oh, you failed financially, or you failed in business, right? You failed these aspects of your life. And that's where I started going, that failure's serving me, right? serving me by giving me something to talk about. It's giving me somebody to say, hey, look, I understand you failed. Here's a bailout, or here's some assistance, or here's some tools, or here's something else. Or maybe it gave me some kind of sense of identity that failure was a good thing, right? So the other thing is the words we speak. The interesting thing about the words we speak is as we speak them out, we hear them. We feel them as we speak them out, but then we hear them as we speak them out. And the way that we learn is through three primary modalities, which are the visual, the auditory, and the kinesthetic. So we feel the feeling, we give it power by speaking it, and then we hear it, which reverberates and has a vibration, right? Sound is all about vibration. And then we ingest it again. And man, I am guilty of this. I like to vent. Hell, you can call this video a vent, right? But we need to shut the fuck up and not vent. We need to make sure that when we do vent, we're gonna vent in a way that is positive. Look, I failed today. I failed yesterday. I failed every day of my life. There was a failure. Somewhere, some way, somehow, I failed. But that failure is just that. It's a failure. I'm not a failure. I did not fail today. I'm not gonna fail in this moment because this is all I have. Right? And even if I do fail, I'm gonna get back up and I'm gonna do it again. So what choice are you gonna make? What difference are you gonna make today on those who love you? Those who you love? The community that you're involved in? The choices that you make? These are the things that I want you to consider. So, anyway, I think that's enough for this. There's other topics that I'm gonna hit a little later. If you liked this content, please subscribe. I appreciate any subscribership, and make sure that you will get notified by clicking that bell icon. But thank you again for your subscribership and your viewership, and hopefully this made a small difference in your day. Until next time.